this is a conspiracy. That's what this is.
Just begging to course its way through your veins.
Let's just for a moment speculate, shall we?
You're into comic books, aren't you?
I'm a nerd.
But you do like comic books.
Comic books aren't just for sad nerds anymore.
Do you think we need one more?
Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
Do you think we need one more?
Objection, calls for speculation, move to strike.
This is a bad idea. This is a bad idea.
All right, we'll get one more.
Spec Tales, a comic book podcast with Jake and Jesus.
What's going on, spectators, and welcome to another spectacular episode of Spec Tales. I'm your landlocked host, Jake, along with the man, the myth, the Freebeard. Of course, I'm talking about Jesus. What's going on, Jesus?
Not to be mistaken with a free beard, because there's nothing free about this beard, man. It's, blood, sweat, and tears to get this beard, man. Like,
I was going for like a free bird, free bird, free beard. You get what?
Yeah, I got that. That's why I said not to be mistaken. Like, there's nothing free about it.
I'm gonna put that guitar solo in the background when I do that opening.
Oh, nice.
If this is your first time joining us for Spec Tales, thank you so much for giving us a listen. Spec Tales is a comic book podcast that asks collectors and creators, what's your Grail Tale? Each week, we explore new stories about the comic book grails we love, the epic journeys behind how they were obtained, and how they inspired new creativity.
We also dive into some comic book speculation and how, as collectors, we can help the hobby pay for itself.
This week, everybody is in for a treat. Not necessarily a first-time appearance on Spec Tales. However, this is this gentleman's first-time appearance as a guest. He previously hosted this show in a scroll fashion just a couple of months ago, maybe not even 2 completely full months, but he is the host of every comic podcast creator's favorite comic podcast. He is Badr Milligan of the Shortbox podcast. Badr, welcome to the show.
Yo, Spec Tales. Was it good, y'all?
Thank you so much for joining us.
What's going on, man? Thank you for joining us. I just wanted to say before we get, this started, this show's going to be great. I already know that, but I just wanted to thank you for hosting as a scroll, the Spec Tales show, and we really appreciate it. So thank you very much, Badr.
Yo, I love doing free work for other podcasters. All right. The best part is I had to edit it. A big shout out. Who actually edited that? Did you edit it or did
Yeah,
Chris?
that was this guy right here. Yeah, that was me.
Okay, word. So yeah, I'll do any podcast that I don't got to edit. But yeah, it was a pleasure. It was a lot of fun.
You guys did such a good job. The editing was very minimal. You and Chris really nailed it. It was just some basic cleanup, and that was about it on my part. But to all the listeners out there, if you didn't get to hear that episode, all you have to do is travel back in time to the episode that dropped on July 26th. Secret Invasion, Chris Hacker, Badr Milligan with guest Christian Ward. I'm actually slightly jealous that you got to get Christian Ward's Grail Tale and Jesus and I didn't. Although we're still counting it as a guest on the overall show. Like we checked his box.
Yo, look, the downloads didn't go to my feed or my dashboard.
Yes. Yeah, all of those royalties and everything that we got out of it, we are not sparing.
I think they optioned that episode already, so it's been optioned.
It's been optioned. Yeah, Miramax already picked it up. They want to do something with it. But speaking of Chris Hacker, who is a good friend of everybody on this recording right now, Chris found out, or I talked to him about doing you coming on the show to be a guest to do your own Grail Tale, and he asked me to ask you a question. He wanted me to, so he, this is a guest question. This comes directly from Christopher Hacker, not to myself or Jesus, but I think inquiring minds want to know anyway. But here's what Chris asked, and you can take a minute if you want to answer. But he wants to know, ask him which podcast does he listen to the moment a new episode drops? Essentially, what's his favorite comic podcast?
Damn. That is a really good question.
In the hot seat.
I do want to remind you, you are on Spec Tales comic
I know.
podcast currently.
I mean, I feel like Spec Tales is a gimme. All right, that's a gimme.
No, you can,
right.
you can answer honestly. It's quite all right.
Look, once I'm done consuming Spec Tales, the second it hits my streaming service, I will admit, I listen to maybe 3 podcasts in total, like religiously, and I want to preface this by saying, as someone that spends so much time editing and doing his own show every week, I don't know how you guys feel, but after I'm done editing, I don't want to hear about comics per se, like, because I've spent so much time thinking and recording and talking about them. I kind of use my podcast list as like a refresher, just to like see what else is out in the world and here's some of my other hobbies. With that excuse blocker up, I will say there is the 3 that I religiously check every Wednesday, because they both release on Wednesday, are: one is the Juan Epstein podcast. And this is the show, like one of 2 shows that got me into podcasting. It was the first hip hop podcast ever. It's hosted by Peter Rosenberg and Cypher Sounds, both of them being New York DJs. They've been on MTV, and they were hosts of Hot 97 and all that stuff. Look, those 2 guys I literally have grown up with. I tune into that show religiously. I'm signed up on Patreon. They talk hip hop. They shoot the shit. They talk shit. They talk about radio and all this stuff that I love. I am a sucker for music podcasts. So that is probably the one that I make sure I check every Wednesday.
Nice. Nothing wrong with that.
I was just going to say that that it's good that you refresh the yourself. And you like, because I think about that too. Like, I'll get in the zone and read a certain type of comic book or a certain type of book for a lot, like whether it's sci-fi and then I'm like, man, all right, I'm done with that. Like, I know that there's some great ones out there I still need to read, but I'm going to take a break and I'm going to read, this, or I'm going to read, autobiography or whatever, and just kind of like cleanse your palate. And, I haven't done that from podcasts. So I definitely need to do that, because I used to listen to a lot different type of podcasts, NPR, Planet Money, just different stuff like that. And I haven't been doing that lately. So I definitely need to get back to that. And that's a good one. I wrote it down. So thank you for that.
Oh yeah. One ep is just the banter alone. And some of their old episodes are classics. Like, they were interviewing hip hop folks before they even knew what podcasting was. I mean, like I said, they were among the first podcasts that I listened to that got me into it. So this was around like 2008, 2009, and you can go back to those old episodes and it is like a time capsule of like the entertainment world back then. They would have like, I think they had an episode of Busta Rhymes and he's like, yeah, I'm on this podcast. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was so old, and they had access to all of these big names, and they had a rapport with them so they could get all these best stories. And some of those episodes are classic if you could find them. Now, I do say, that is not to say that, I listen only to music podcasts, because what I will do for like the comic book homies, you guys, Oblivion Bar, Comic Keepers, comic book couples counseling, Wednesday poll. If you guys have like a cool ass episode or topic, I'm definitely tuning in, for Spec Tales, when you guys had Guido and Lisa on the show, when they did their takeover, I tuned in for that one, because it was, it was like, damn, 2 of my favorite people taking over like another pair of show. And then anytime like Oblivion Bar's got a cool guest, and I think like Comic Book Keepers just announced that what's his name that writes Radiant Black? I'm drawing a blank.
Oh yeah, him.
Al Higgins, I think, is his name. But they're having him on the pod, and so I'll be checking that out. So for a comic book podcast, I'll just like kind of pick and choose like which ones I'm going to listen to. But I try to listen to outside or other non-comic podcasts, because I'm also listening for like inspiration. I'm listening to like how segues are done on like the major, podcast platforms, and ones that I like what are the music they're using? How are they transitioning? How, I'm saying that a lot of it is like research and development for me.
I think you just tweeted out something where it says that now podcasting has taken over radio and stuff like that, as far as listening or listening hours or listeners or what have you. And just kind of where you feel podcasting is and kind of where it's going right now, since you've been in it for, I think, what would you say, like 10 years almost? Is it over 10 years already?
Yeah, our first, so the Shortbox podcast was started in 2012. And I want to say we were recording a lot of the episodes over the summer, and we technically didn't start releasing until like December. Like, we just got in 2012. So I've been podcasting for that long. And for the most part, it's been all weekly. As a matter of fact, I'm editing the 400th episode now so it can drop on when. I don't know if this episode will probably come out. Your episode will probably come out at the same time the 400th drops. So yeah,
Congratulations, man.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I've been putting off the 400 for a minute, but I need to put it out. But I'm glad you asked, and we don't got to go into a whole diatribe, but I just, like 2 weeks ago, I went to Denver for a podcast conference called Podcast Movement. And I went because of how many big players were there. I've been to small, and I say respectively, smaller podcast conferences where it's more catered towards, podcasters like us that are doing this weekly. We don't have a major backing, or we're not signed to a big corporation, or we don't have giant sponsors. But so I've been to those, but I wanted to see, like, what do the big dogs do? Like, what do they talk about? What are their metrics for success? So I went to Podcast Movement, and it was like NPR was there, Spotify, Amazon Music, reps from YouTube were there. So it was like, a state of the industry, at this conference. And I could probably spend the whole time talking about just what I learned there. But what I'll say is it was a big confidence booster in the sense of like, oh yeah, podcasting ain't going nowhere.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Cause I didn't know that was going on. If not, I would have been there in a jiff. I'm just joking. I mean, I would want to go, but we're trying to get to San Diego Comic-Con first, right, Jake?
Yeah.
We got to prioritize. We still haven't been there, so.
Look, I still have not been to San Diego Comic-Con either. But I think next year will be the year I go. I'm going to will that into existence. But this year I'm going to New York Comic-Con for the first time. So, my priorities were a little, this year, was a priority year. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to a big podcast conference. I'm going to New York Comic-Con.
Nice. Good for you.
Those are goals. Yeah, those are two good conferences to go to, man. I mean, I want to go to New York Comic-Con too, and I would have liked to be there in Denver too, man. So I'm going to be looking at that. Maybe I'll start with the small ones, like you mentioned, the smaller ones.
Oh yeah, this is definitely a podcaster's podcast episode right now. This is for like some.
I was just gonna say for a comic book podcast, we've talked an awful lot about podcast creating, and for all you listeners out there who were previously interested in starting your own podcast, if this has been at all a deterrent, you're welcome. We probably just saved a lot of hours.
Go enjoy your family and friends and weekends. That sounds so glorious.
For the love of God, enjoy your life.
Let us entertain you and just support the Patreon. Like support the Spec Tale boys on Patreon. All right. This is a lot of work. We're saving you. We're doing the work for you.
Very nice. Well, I love the segue, so I'm gonna take it. That was the I don't know what we're calling that first segment, but let's just call that Podcaster's Paradise. We will move into.
No. I know what it is. That started from a listener submitted question.
Oh, that was the listener submitted question.
Good
Thank you very much, Chris Hacker, for that.
Yeah.
Let's roll into the first official segment of this episode.
Recent pickups.
That would be the recent pickup segment where we're each going to go around and talk about some book or collectible we recently acquired. It can be something you read. It can be something you just collected. Either way, it doesn't really matter to us as long as you tell us what it is, or I guess we tell you what it is. Jesús, you traditionally kick this off, so what do you got?
All right, so for recent pickups this week, I have two. One of them is a kind of, I would say, off the beaten path kind of deal, just because it wasn't in physical media. It was a Comixology exclusive at first, but it was obviously from a big name, and I'm talking about the All Nighter from Chip Zdarsky and Jason Liu. It's a very interesting comic book to me. I started looking up Chip Zdarsky stuff. I just like his writing. It's funny. It's different. Yep. And the All Nighter is basically a diner that's only open at night. And the twist is that it's vampires running the All Nighter, right? Because they can't be out during the day. And that they have an adopted daughter who's a young vampire that can't go out in the day. That's their excuse. But if they get caught, or if somebody believes that they're a vampire, there's this kind of like secret council that comes and takes them out because they cannot be exposed, and they end up, exposing everybody else. Well, one of the vampires decides to go out and save lives, and he puts on a superhero costume. So he's a vampire in a superhero costume saving lives, and people don't know he's a vampire, so he's not breaking any rules, and the secret council can't come out to get him. And so that's kind of where this has gone. I blew through this real quick. This came out in March of 2022. I just found it probably about a month ago, and lo and behold, it was right around the time that the second volume was going to come out. So I have the second volume waiting for me on my phone, on my Comixology. It's in print media now. Dark Horse has printed it as a trade paperback. I definitely recommend it. It's a lot of fun. It's different. There's a couple twists in there with some of the characters, which is pretty cool. So that's the first recent pickups from Chip Zdarsky and Jason Liu called The All Nighter.
Sounds great.
And then the second, I like it. I recommend it.
Yeah, you came correct for the Comixology Unlimited series. Limited series. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That really made me change all of my notes. I'm like, no, I can't give them the bullshit. I got to come fully correct.
Yeah, man. I read a lot, man, and I'll go anywhere to read, man. I'll read Kickstarter books. I'll read Comixology. We even got those people. What was it that sent us those magazines, those horror mags?
Oh, now you're gonna put me on the spot. Now I can't remember what they were, but
was it Cherry? But no, I forgot what it's called. We'll look it up.
Yeah, we're gonna have to look it up, but I don't have them in front of me.
All right, and then the second one, I was really interested in this again, and this is what I was kind of alluding to earlier with Badr. I read kind of horror superhero stuff all the time, but this one is a Western. It's the Enfield Gang Massacre from Chris. What's his name? No, it's Jacob Phillips and Chris Condon. And the way it was put to me was it's like a Western thriller. So it's like a Western met like Silence of the Lambs almost. So it's so different. Like it's really good. It's a Western, right? The art is awesome, but also just the presentation. The front covers are painted. It looks like they're painted, and inside is newsprint, right? So it's like that old timey paper feel to kind of give you that whole vibe. But I really enjoyed the first one. It leaves off on a great cliffhanger. It's only 6 issues that have been announced so far. I'm gonna be reading all of them. So that's another different type of book, the Enfield Gang Massacre, that I also recommend. So those are my 2 recent pickups that I've been reading, and I'm really excited to recommend those to you guys.
Dude, those are solid. And I like what you said about the presentation, because that was a big reason why I ended up picking up that issue. Because I was only going to get it digital, but I was at the shop and I seen it lying around, and I think it was the last copy, and I picked it up. And I'm like, oh, this, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes you pick up a comic or a book and like you could just, just from that initial feel, you're like, this is different. There, some thought was put into like, this experience I'm having right now. But I'm familiar with the creative team, Chris Condon and Jacob Phillips from That Texas Blood, which honestly, I need to go back and finish. I read the first 3 issues as they were coming out, because obviously Jacob Phillips is related to it's Sean Phillips, right? Sean Phillips from Brubaker?
I think so.
Yeah, they're related. And I think Jacob Phillips does a lot of coloring for his brother on like the Criminal and Brubaker stuff. So these 2 right here have held their own. Yeah, man. I was like, that Texas Blood I know was on a lot of people's list. And when I seen they were doing, because this is kind of like part of that Texas Blood continuity or universe. So they're telling like a prequel story to that story. So it's cool to see them like expand on that original idea.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. There's also like some interesting storytelling, I guess, choices or different things in there. Like I think there's like a letter in there, and there's also like a newspaper article in there that kind of adds to the story, which is pretty cool as well. So yeah, very different, very cool. Definitely pick it up if you can.
Solid pick.
Nice choices, Jesus. I will award you with 3 tater tots for those.
Same as last week. That's weird. Same as last week.
Technically, that was 2 weeks ago, and you would have gotten more.
Step up. Step your game up, Jesus. All right, you stuck at this plateau. You got to get back in the gym. Try something new.
Yeah,
you drill.
You really would have gotten more tater tots, but you made me do work, and I'm not a fan of that. And that work is I actually went and got I went and found that book you were referring to earlier was The Brooding Muse And this harkens back to the style of magazine that Creepy and Eerie do. And these, the Cherry Bomb, what is it? Cherry Bomb Comics. It looks like they're out of Pennsylvania. They were kind enough to send us some books. They wanted us to take a look at them. We talk heavily about Creepy Magazine quite often, mostly because of how much we love the magazine. And I don't know, I think they just thought this would be up our alley, and it certainly was. So that is what Jesus was talking about earlier. Then I apologize that I lost the name, but I did have one handy, so I at least had that going.
Yeah,
I feel like you guys will never be hurting for like horror comic books. Like your branding, the logos, the PFPs that you guys got. It's like, yeah, you guys like are a magnet for any startup company or comic company that produces like horror comics. They're like, send it to the Spec Tale boys.
Yeah, we ain't gonna turn it away.
Not at all.
We can't get enough, man. We can't get it. Well, I'm telling you, like, we're finding old school horror stuff, new school horror stuff, different kind of horror stuff, and it's pretty dope, man. I'm excited about it. We got some other stuff coming up. I wanted to talk about it right now, but I'm not gonna.
You were so close.
I was.
All right, Badr, it is now your turn to let us know what your recent pickup is.
Okay, I got 3 recent pickups / here's what I'm reading right now.
Sounds good.
For starters, a couple of weeks ago, I decided to correct a grave mistake that I've, an error that I've been living with, a sin that I've been living with, to tie it into this pick right here. I ashamedly have not been reading Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil run. And as all of you know, that series just came to an end like 2-3 weeks ago. And but 2 weeks ago, I finally decided to start. Now, keep in mind, this is a series that I've seen all the praise for it. I've got friends that swear by it. I've got friends that have been pleading with me, you got to check this out. You love Born Again? You love Daredevil? You got to check this out. And in true Badr fashion, it only took me like 5 years to like finally check it out. But for the last like 2 weeks, I've been playing super like heavy catch up with this series, and I'm still on the first run. The first run is 36 issues, and then it goes into this current run that just ended. So I'm in the middle of the first run, really enjoying it, and it lives up to the hype. Like Chip Zdarsky, he's just one of my favorite writers out. Like he's now in that upper echelon where if I see his name, it's enough for me to be like, well, at least got to pick up the first issue. So which kind of makes me excited to check out that all-nighters that you recommended, Jesus. So I'm currently making my way through Daredevil, his Daredevil run. I'm reading that on Marvel Unlimited, so I'm doing that digitally. And then some recent pickups. Speaking about Comixology, I actually bought these 2 issues just based on the strength of seeing the artwork in the issue in the shop a couple weeks ago. But Sirens of the City from Boom Studios. It's written by Joanne Starrer. And then art by, I think I'm saying it right, Kari Randolph. I apologize. And I'm going to read the solicitation because I think it does it way more justice than I can. The solicitation for issue 1, it's a 6-issue series, by the way. It's on issue 2 or 3 right now. But the solicitation for issue 1 is New York City, 1980s. Runaway teen Layla struggles to survive on the mean streets far from home. But now every supernatural creature from the darkest corners of the urban grimes after Layla. And the child-to-be she never wanted growing inside her. This gritty urban fantasy created by Joanne Starr from The Gimmick and Excellence's Kari Randolph shines a light on bodily anatomy in a patriarchal world. It wasn't until I read that solicitation and got to that shines a light on bodily anatomy in a patriarchal world that I'm like, duh, there's a deeper meaning to all of this. And, it's like, oh, yeah, that's cool. Because, I'm reading it. The art is gorgeous. It's primarily a black and white comic, but they have splashes of certain color, primarily reds and blues and like purples, to accentuate like certain emotions or certain things going on. And depending on the supernatural creature or society that the main character Layla runs into, whether they be vampires or sirens or magicians, it's like a different color set or a different color palette that's used. It's like one of the best looking and eye-catching like comic books out there. I'm telling you, I flipped through in the shop and I was like, yo, mental note, check to see, how many issues they got. And like I said, it's been a ride. It's up to issue 2. It's a solid story too when you have like that piece of information, because you can just enjoy it for it being like a good looking book or something about, urban fantasy genre, but then also like the deeper meanings that they're trying to get across. So Sirens of the City is number 2 on there. And the last but not least thing that I'm currently like just addicted to is this manga called Hajime no Ippo. And this is like an old manga that came out in the 89 is when it was like serialized and like shonen manga. And then it got an anime, and it's still going on to this day. As of July 2023, it's got 138 tankobon volumes as of to this day. And it's a boxing manga. It's about a young kid by the name of Ippo that learns to box because he's, getting bullied, and he's very shy, and he just gets into boxing. And the way this manga breaks down boxing and fighting techniques and the strategy that goes into it and the action, the way they actually show and illustrate like the boxing fights and the punches being thrown, it's amazing. It's good. It's like, damn, I don't even watch this much boxing in real life, but now like it's sparked interest, and I'm looking at boxing like, all right, this is actually helping me understand the sport a little more. So and it's a hella inspiring too, like it's it's a little saccharine, it's got a little bit of saccharine where it's like, you can do it if you just put your mind to it and all that. But you're watching this character actually do that, like have a positive attitude and learn these things and fail and get back up. So, you read it and you're like, damn, this action is cool, but I'm also going to do like 10 push-ups right now. And I got to give full props to Juan Gideon. He is the writer and artist for Jurassic League. Had him on the podcast a few weeks ago, and he mentioned this manga being like one of his favorites. And I wrote it down on the list and checked it out, and it's been awesome to read so far. So I'm excited to get through even more. So that's what those are my recent reads.
Nice.
Man,
well, I just wrote it down myself because that sounds awesome.
Yeah, so manga is pretty cool, man. I've been reading manga for a while, and just when you tell me, like, I hadn't heard about this one. I mean, obviously it's older, and I'm reading an older one as well too. But it reminds me of like, I feel like some manga, especially like that, like where it's a certain theme like boxing. And now I'll say another one that reminds me of it. It's a Slam Dunk. Have you heard of Slam Dunk?
Dude, yes. I was reading that heavy. And I think that's why this transition to Hajime no Ippo was so smooth, because I was already like, yo, what else is in the world of like sports manga? I've heard like there's a really good soccer one. I can't recall. It's like Blue something. There's like other really good boxing ones. And Slam Dunk was like, I'm like, yo, I already love basketball. This only makes me love it even more.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they use the sport as a vessel to tell this other story about, whatever. Like in that one is teenage angst, right? Like it's in high school and it's getting right. And the one you're talking about is like a kid getting, confidence and learning and getting the passion for boxing and stuff. And it's also giving you a passion for boxing, the sweet science. So manga's cool, man. If you guys aren't reading manga, like you guys are missing out on a lot of really cool stories.
I use manga as a palate cleanser too. When I'm feeling like, okay, there's no more superhero books, there's no more image books I can read right now that'll entertain me. Like sometimes I'll switch to manga just to like, just the act of it. The reading it is so different, like the left to right, and what I'm saying is sometimes it like resets my brain. And after a little bit of like appreciating manga, I go back to American comics, and I'm able to like get back into it a little more, appreciate it more, and like sometimes going from hot to cold, what I'm saying is like you need that little polar change. But yeah, manga is, and there's and you know what it is? I think it's because I'm not that well versed in it like I am comic books. It's so fun to find, things, to be in this discovery phase where I'm like, yeah, give me any recommendations. And I always felt like this is a plus in the manga checkbox that sometimes comic books, especially in this day and age, that comics doesn't really get, is that manga is really easy to pick up too. If I pick up volume 1, I know the path I have to go, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And if I don't like one, I've read enough of the story to make like an educated guess.
Yes.
A tankobon is whatever. I'm probably lowballing here, but it's at least 90 pages. I feel like maybe even more. you're getting a sufficient enough story to where you figure out this isn't really my thing. Let me move on. But it wasn't that big of an investment, but at the same time, it was enough. Is what I'm getting at.
No, yeah, I mean, there's a lot that it's so funny because I was talking to my kid about this, my son, because we went to a bookstore over the weekend, and we went to the manga section, and there was a Spider-Man manga, right? Like it's Spider-Man, and they did it manga, but it's in English, and I'm like, what are they trying to do here? Like you'd expect it to be in a different language. Why is it backwards? Like I don't understand. Like, are they just trying to? I feel like they were trying to catch on to a fad, I guess, or to a like what's hot right now versus finding out what they're doing well in manga and translating over to comics instead of just trying to copy. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. But yeah, there's a lot of cool manga. The writer for Slam Dunk did another book called Vagabond that I'm reading right now, and I definitely recommend it for you.
Actually, I've read volume 1. I'm on volume 2. Yeah, that's a good recommendation. I'm into like the whole samurai mangas for sure.
Yeah,
Jake, this has now become the manga hour.
That's right. You guys just like your waves got in sync, and I was like, hey guys, I'm gonna take a step back here. It's all right. I need to catch up. It looks like I need to catch up. There, the interest. There's a lot of serendipitous things going on, and we're gonna circle back in just a sec. But
there is, man. And that's what makes you a good host. Like you're letting the moment just happen. You're getting like podcast gold.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it makes it easier for me on the editing side for sure. Badr, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to award you 3.5 tater tots for that. Yes! Because that was a hell of a recent pickup segment there. It was really well done.
I love tater.
So here we go now with the final one. I'm going to go ahead and let you know that it was weird because, Jesus brought up Chip Zdarsky, and then Badr, you did, and it was very serendipitous. And then Jesus brought up The Brooding Muse, which was really kind of a call to Creepy Magazine a little bit. Well, the book I brought is actually one I just picked up at the store this week. It is the Archive Collection Creepy Magazine issues 1 through 5 in their entirety. So this Archive edition, printed by Dark Horse, it just got released. Our good friend Dan Braun actually was at San Diego Comic-Con promoting this. Dan and his brother, actually, they are the owners and keepers of Creepy and Eerie magazine. So they're re-releasing all of the Creepy and Eerie in these beautiful archive editions. Dan, who reached out to us a long time ago, we didn't believe him when we first got the email. We were like, who's this weirdo trying to email us? And it turns out, like, not only was he serious and was he extremely generous and friendly, and he would talk to us. Like, we ended up having him on the show, and he's turned into a really, really good friend. Wish we would have been able to get out to San Diego Comic-Con to see him and pick these things up in person. But the best part was I went into my LCS after having not been in there for a while, everybody. When I moved, it wasn't like I just took off from the podcast. I took off from a lot of stuff. So I had not been into my LCS in quite some time. And I walked in there, and the first thing, John, the owner of the shop, he saw me and he was like, hey, I've got something for you. He bought one specifically knowing I was going to buy it. Like, he knew I would want it. That's the telltale sign of a really, really great owner. So
absolutely.
He immediately handed me that. And John as well is a big fan of Creepy and Eerie magazine. Guys, if you are looking to just even read what some of the first 5 issues were like, this is such a really good, accessible copy for everybody. You can pick it up at your local LCS. They just dropped. I don't know what the exact drop date was, but I believe it was within the last month. I know at San Diego Comic-Con they were they probably had advanced copies, I think is what they were. But if you go through, I'll flip through for you two. They even, it's got all the ads that are on like the back page, and then they include the covers as well inside. So it's everything that was in the original magazines. It's very cool.
How many of those covers were done by Frank Frazetta?
Initially in the first like 30 some, I'm looking at one right now. I have one like kind of displayed. Number 32 is one he's most famous for, one of them. But I want to say in the first 32, he probably did, 8 or 10 total. He did quite a few. The cover of this is also Frazetta as well.
That's what I was. Okay, that's what I was trying to. I'll say this, man. I think whatever company, I feel like I've never seen a bad, creepy trade graphic novel or I guess just umbrella. I've never seen a bad, creepy collected edition. Now, the actual use of the colors and like how accurate those might be to the original, that leaves maybe something to be argued. But in terms of like product, like holding one and like, it looking good and, whether it be a hardcover or a trade, I feel like if whatever company gets like a creepy license or they're reprinting that, there always seems to be a different level of care and attention that goes into it. And I think that comes along with the fan base. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's certain expectations that you've got to meet if you're using any material or reproducing any material from like Creepy or EC.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't disagree with you. Dark Horse has been doing it since I think 2008. They've been working with Dan. Dan and his brother, I believe, got the rights. They bought them from Warren back in around 2005, 4. I can't remember when exactly it was, but they bought the rights, and then they in searching, Dan actually in the episode he did with us, he sort of details everything and how it came to be where him and his brother got the rights to Creepy and Eerie from Warren Publishing. But they did go to Dark Horse, and they've pretty much been exclusively with Dark Horse ever since, I believe. So that's why it's such high quality. I do think that has a lot to do with, like you said, the fans. But Dan and his brother, the reason they had bought the right, they were fans, right? They grew up on Creepy and Eerie, and that was why they also demanded such high quality out of Dark Horse when printing. At least that's my understanding of it. Dan, if you're out there listening, you're welcome to correct me. That said, everybody, I'm sure it'll be a shock to everybody, but I just received 4 tater tots for that recent pickup. It was a really close call for everybody involved. But when calling back to a friend of the show and a guest of the show with Creepy Magazine, I don't know how I could get any less than 4 tater tots.
Yeah. It's one thing to hear this blasphemy and the game being rigged as a listener, but to experience it firsthand. I feel for you, man. I got a new level of sympathy for you. You just can't,
man. For me, I take solace that we had a serendipitous moment and we talked about Chip Zdarsky, and that's more than a tater tot's worth in my book. Right. And I'm sure, listeners can chime in and tell us how much that's worth as well. And if they give me a tater, then I'm at the very least tied with Jake. But Jake also does make a good point, man. Dan is a good friend of the show, and that is a really dope Creepy. Like I want to buy that book now.
Yeah, you'll have to go out and get your own.
What's one tater tot between friends?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe
I'll split one with Jesus. I don't, maybe. But
3.5 for everybody. There we go.
3.5. Oh, God, that makes way too much sense for that to be what we do. All right.
Can I share?
Go ahead.
Really quick. I'm sorry for interrupting. I promise this will be the last, maybe not last interruption, but just because we're talking about Creepy and EC and Warren Publishing, I wanted to share an interesting fact I learned from an interview with a comic book consignment director that works at Heritage Auctions. You guys are familiar with Heritage Auction, right?
Yes,
like largest auction house, always fucking breaking records for selling comic books and comic art. They're having a big comic and comic signature auction September 14th through the 17th. So by the time this episode drops, not only will that auction happen, my interview with that guy, Brian Weedman is his name, will also be out. So there goes the synergy right there. But he schooled me onto something interesting and told me about how some of those, because we were talking about key grails. This all kind of ties in. Jake, I got it. This all ties in. We were talking about grails, and this guy has had, I think he said, he has had Amazing Spider-Man 15 like 5-10 times in his hand. The way he spoke about Amazing 15 and Detective Comics 27 and Batman 1 was the way we probably talk about fucking bananas. We're like, yeah, I've had a banana in my life. You know what I'm saying? It was so mundane. But what got him excited was pre-code comic books. And aside from just being a fan of like those illustrators and those stories, he was saying some of those books, though not recognized or name, quote unquote name brand Grail books, some of those books are way more valuable or harder to get than say a ASM 15 or something, because not just pre-ban books, but especially around like the ban period, Seduction of the Innocent. He reminded me like, we were burning comic books in this country around that time because we thought, they were, devilish and causing juvenile delinquency. So when you consider that we were burning comic books, there's a lot of books that didn't make it, that the print runs were already low. Well, now you're burning, all of them. And now they're even more scarce. So he mentioned on the podcast, like a few books and titles that, go for a lot of money because there's literally maybe 2 of them out in the world. And I thought that might be interesting to share.
Yeah, the serendipity factor continues here. Jesus is smiling because we literally just recorded an episode for our Patreon, actually, with Ryan at Automatic Comics. Ryan has a YouTube show channel where he really is, in my honest opinion, he might be the smartest golden age collector out there. The amount of content he provides within his channel, he has been buying and selling through heritage auctions and anywhere online for years. And he's been also keeping very, very close track of sales. So he doesn't just track the things that he's buying. He's tracking the sales of lots and lots of books and following the ups and downs. Not a lot of downs when it comes to Golden Age either. But yeah, what you were just saying really rings true in what we were just talking about with Ryan. We go into a little bit more depth, of course, with regards to very rare books and how to really sort of break into the Golden Age collecting and things like that. That's on the September episode of Floppies, which is our Patreon exclusive series. So if you're more interested in that, you can certainly go and listen to that. But I do think we need to keep this train rolling. Badr, if you don't mind, we got to get into this next segment.
Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale.
The Grail Tale segment. That's the one. That's our favorite one. Jesus and I, we're going to sit back. I'm going to have a pina colada, and we're just going to listen to you tell your tale.
You lucky bastard. That sounds so good. All right, I've got 2 that I'll try to keep short for the sake of time here, and I want to go and preface it with a disclaimer that I was trying to think of like what is my Grail Tale? What do I consider my Grail? And I'll be honest, man, for as long as I've been collecting, I only had a very short stint as like a serious collector that was like cared about like prices and getting hot books, and that like died out pretty quick, and especially died out when I sold all of my single issue collections. When I moved out of my mom's house, and she was like, look, these 20 short boxes and long boxes cannot stay in this garage anymore. All right. I want to bring in a electric bike that I will never use. All right, Badr. So sell all these. Once I sold all them single issues, I was almost basically out of like the game. But so the 2 stories that I have aren't necessarily about me per se, but I feel like definitely fit this segment here. First and foremost, one of my the issue for this first one is Deadpool number 44. It came out in 2000. It is part 1 of a 2-part story where he crosses over with Black Panther. The story part 2 is in Black Panther number 23, which came out October 2000. There is Deadpool number 44, I believe, has a really cool Joe Kelly cover, if I'm not mistaken. I know it's like a Christopher Priest is credited as one of the writers. Now, the story with this one goes that my dad, is the reason I'm into comic books. His collection was my collection as a kid. He had them all stored in a garage and an old VCR cabinet. None of them were bagged and boarded, which kind of goes to show you why, like, Whoa, Jesus went in and pulled it out. Hell yeah.
Jesus is holding up the cover right now.
Dude,
nice.
That's badass. All right. Yes. Oh my God. That cover is bringing back. Okay. So my dad's collection was my collection. He also did not have any concept of selling or rarities. And he had a couple of books in there. Looking back, he could have sold and made a little bit of money. But for him, it was always like the entertainment value, the reading, and all of that. So that kind of passed along to me. And my dad was really proud that he had all of the Christopher Priest Black Panther run. He was super proud of having all of them. But the only issue he was missing was the Deadpool 44. You know, in his eyes, it was like, well, technically, I don't have all of them. I've got this one missing because there's a 2-part story, and my man Black Panther is in it, who's, you know, one of his favorite characters. And this is like us not really, I think this is like around the time when we did not really have a home computer or anything like that, or we weren't really too savvy into buying like issues or comics from online. So I would look for this comic book everywhere I'd go. Like, and this is like young me, I think I'm still working at like Domino's. I might have been working at Target, had a few dollars. I didn't have much. So I was looking in every dollar bin I could find around the city here in Jack's, every comic shop. If I went digging, I was probably looking for this. And I always wanted to find it for him to like complete his story. But it was really, really difficult to find this comic book. And then one day I think I looked up on the net because I was like, all right, I can't find this out in a while. Let me buy it for him for Christmas. Man, even then, we're talking like 2006, 7, 8, when during like this time period, this book was like, I think $80. It was going for $80 online. And I can't afford even a $20 book. So, I mean, I wrote this book off. And then in 2000, I think 9 or 10, I went to my first MegaCon here in Orlando. And I went with my best friend, Drew, who's one of the co-founders of the Short Box. He's a regular host and all that stuff. He was like, yo, let's go to MegaCon. You've never been. I'm telling you now, it's going to blow your mind. It blew my freaking mind. I mean, I was like a kid, a tiny baby in a candy factory. I was blown away by how many books, because he was telling me like, yo, I guarantee we'll find any book you want, Dude, this book, not at this is what I was convinced of. 2 full days of hardcore hunting. And this is like early days of MegaCon where it was 99% comic book vendors. It was like massive floor. The floor is massive and covered in comics and short boxes. And dude, I looked so hard for this book. I remember, I think I called my dad and I was like, Dad, I think you're just gonna have to let go of this dream. And my dad didn't care. He was like, boy, I've let go of this dream a long time ago. Like, why are you stressing out about this? He's like, yeah, there's way more. He didn't even know this meant this much to me. For him, he was like, Badr, I've got every issue of Black Panther Christopher Priest run. I'm like, nah, Dad, you need Deadpool 44. You got to finish the story. And I think he was how it ends. I have the second part. And it was like the last day, and we were going to leave. It was like Sunday. We spent a full day in Orlando in the MegaCon. I had never been, so I was ill prepared. My feet hurt. I was tired. I was broke as hell. Fingernails dusty. Just like tired. But it didn't stop me from wanting to go for the last day. Even though there was no one in there, vendors and booths were emptied and picked. All the good stuff were out. But I went around this corner, and I think I had marked on like a little map they gave us everywhere I had been. And I went around this corner that I don't think was on the map. It wasn't on the map. It was by like the bathroom. And I'm like, yo, this dude has like the worst spot, Well, it's not the worst spot when you think about it, because you can hit the people that go to the bathroom. But anyways, I'm walking down, and Drew is like, don't freak out. Look up. And on this wire rack is this fucking comic book in all its glory. It was like bagged and boarded, just staring at me. Like just staring at me like, yo, I've been here this whole time, you numbskull. And sure enough, that book was expensive as hell. It was like $60, $70. And I could not afford this book at all. Like at all. Especially like at that time. I'm like, yo, I don't even got, gas money to pay Drew to give this back. But Drew put his hand on my shoulder and was like, I'll go half with you. Like, I know how important this is for you. And I could just, he wanted in on it. He wanted to help me achieve this dream. And we bought this book, got back to the house. Now, mind you, I had already called my dad, like, yo, I don't think I can find this. He was not looking forward to anything. He gave me like another list, like, yo, if you can find this and this, get that. I slapped that book across the table and he like audibly gasped. He was like, it is true. They do exist. He was like the M&Ms they meet Santa. They do exist. It does exist. Yeah, man, that was like, and I helped him complete that. And I think it's a book he still owns. And I've seen the price is, I think, still relatively the same. But that was like my first time having like that moment of like, yo, I found this book in the wild for, decent price for someone else. And so that's one of my Grail Tales. The other one, I think, this one affects me because the same character, man, Drew. When I graduated high school, I started working in Target. That's where I met Drew, and we became instant friends. I think he heard me say something about Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, and he was like, "Yo, you fuck with comics?" I'm like, "Yes, I do." And we've been friends. This was like 2008. We've been best friends since then. Well, around that time, I was into like weird books, I was just like into weird comic books. I wasn't like fully into like I was really into Marvel, but I wasn't into anything else per se. I wasn't into like DC or any Image or indie books, but I was also a big video gamer and I love Street Fighter. I loved Marvel vs. Capcom, the Street Fighter games. That was my shit. Besides comics, it was like video game was a close 1B. And I got into the Street Fighter comic books. The original ones that came out in 2004 that were coming out through Udon Studio or Udon Entertainment or whatever it's called. But it was coming out through Udon. Look, if you are a fan of Street Fighter, these books are drawn gorgeous. The story built on the lore. I think it was like one of the first times that they really expanded the lore outside the game. Like the comic books that were coming out around this time were basically like, being faithful to the video games and the characters and building upon these lores. And it just looked good. You had art by Alvin Lee. I think Arnold Sang is also another name. Like it was a beautiful series, really good drawn book, a lot of action. And I was committed to getting every single issue of that series. And I had all of them. And then I learned and then that was a crash course into variants because I had like issue 2B though. So you know what I'm saying? It was throwing me off because I was like, yo, I think I have this book. Oh, I have doubles of this because it's issue 3, but I've got every cover. And the one issue that eluded me for years was Street Fighter issue 6, cover A. When I say also like the Deadpool, I went through every single box. I think I went through every single short box here in Jacksonville. If there was a comic shop that had back issues or comics period, I've been through them and I was looking for Street Fighter 6. It got to the point where it got kind of fun because I could have bought this issue online, but I was like, it was like, it's a $3 book. It was like, it was easy, but I made a rule where it's like, I got to find this out in the wild. And of course, like I was doing weekend digs with Drew. Like every weekend we'd link up, we'd go hit a shop and we would just like go digging. And this book was always at the top of my list. And anytime we go digging, maybe like, like we all do with our best friends when we go to a shop, it's like, what are you looking for? And what am I looking for? If you find it, let me know. And it kind of became a game where every week we go a little further outside of the city limits. We go to, Daytona, which is like 45 minutes away. Go to every shop there. Okay. We'll go to Orlando shops. We'll go to Tampa. It was just a fun thing. And I remember that summer vividly, just going to shops and whatnot. Well, fast forward to like 2010, Drew leaves to join the Navy. And the Navy's boot camp and school and all that is in Chicago. So he goes and like, I remember that was a tough summer because, my best friend was gone. So and all we could communicate with was like writing letters and the occasional text if he got his phone. And, it was just like an interesting like summer for me just growing up and, kind of finding new friends and blah, blah, blah. But one day out of the blue, I get a text from Drew. And this is like a time period where like, yo, if I got a text, it was sporadic. His phone, it was like shitty phones. He was also like busy doing boot camp and tech school stuff. And one day, man, he sends me a text out of the blue. And I think I was studying for a final. I was stressed. And I get this text and I get excited. I'm like, yo, oh shit, Drew just texted me. And it is the most blurry, grainiest photo of this skinny twig, no hair, in uniform looking like, it looked like a baby had just joined the Navy, He was holding up Street Fighter issue 6. I remember spazzing, like losing my shit in my room, like, he found the Grail! He found the Grail! And I tried to send him a text back and it just fell through. I had to wait a whole week before we could spaz. Like, I think he had graduated. He called. He was like, the first thing I should have said was like, yo, congrats on, graduating boot camp and all this stuff. First thing we said was like, dude, Street Fighter 6, what, 6A cover? Like, oh. So, like, I have the photo. I sent it to Jake, and it is like, on some, LG phone, flip phone crap. But it is a photo. Anytime I look at it, it's just like, damn, it means a lot to me. Like, I've been through this comic journey of mine, and we've got like these stories of like helping each other find grails and playing like these, finding ways to make collecting fun where, you kind of set these self-imposed rules of like no eBay, no digital. You got to find it out in the wild, and it can't be for an exorbitant amount. Like it was awesome. It's just funny that it took, we had to go to Chicago to find this damn issue. Could not find it here in Jax.
That's amazing. And I did share the photo you shared with me. I shared it with Jesus. The funny thing is as soon as you sent me the photo, I was actually waiting for like the photo to like, I thought it was still processing, right? I'm waiting for the resolution to clear up. I was like, oh, maybe it didn't fully download. What's going on here? Why is it so blurry? But now that you've said that it came from, Nokia phone circa 2010 or whatever, that makes a lot more sense. And
yeah, I'm so glad. I had the same thought when I sent it. I'm like, yo, why didn't Twitter process? I'm like, oh, never mind. That's right. I checked the metadata on this phone. This picture was taken August 28th, 2010. So, and it was like the 13-year anniversary. It's a couple of
man, that's pretty awesome, man. Well, dude, first of all, like, awesome Grail Tales, man. I mean, I feel lucky we got two of them. It's crazy. The first one with your dad is like, I mean, and it's also too, like you mentioned, you said you kind of put some rules in place too. Like, yeah, maybe he didn't want it as bad or what have you, but you wanted it for him, right? And you went everywhere looking for that book. And I also think it's pretty cool that you have that first, MegaCon memory kind of tied to it, like that. I think that's really cool as well with that Grail Tale. And and it completes the run. It's just pretty awesome, pretty dope, man. And then the second one, man, like more serendipity. We're Target buddies. I worked at Target as well for about 2 years. So,
you got the
yeah, man, I got, I was a stalker, man. And so I definitely, can relate to that. And also one of my best friends I met there as well. So it's just really cool that you can tie these grails to these pivotal moments in your life with your friend and your dad. It's
yeah. Man, for comic books for me has always been like, recording the 400th, we got a voicemail that was like, what does the short box mean to you? And I had said like it not to sound all Vin Diesel, it's definitely about like family, like the short box and really like comics in general has always been something that I look at aside from like, being the best, I think, art form out there because you get story combined. But for me, it's about the collecting, the story, like that friendship and building connections with people. And my two Grail Tales happen to be, make me think about my dad who got me into it and my best friend who, I really got into this, culture with. Those are definitely, because it's never been about like me finding an expensive thing or something. I feel like I've always been a giver, love giving gifts. And, those two, I got to give something to someone and I, in turn got to receive something too. So I think it works out.
Yeah. And that really is the epitome of the Grail Tale segment. I know we are always super excited when the Grail can be like we've never had a Tech 27 Grail Tale told, but the thing is it's never been about the value of the book for us. It's so much more about the I guess it's not about the monetary value, it's about the emotional value attached to the Grail. That's what makes it the Grail. And so both of your stories 100% hit that right on the head. And I think the only comment I really want to have or make is your first story about finding the book at, for your dad. It works for me. I did something similar for a movie for my dad, where the movie was never released on VHS or DVD, and I ended up tracking down the writer of the movie, who was extremely old. My dad saw it in theaters, tracked down the writer, ended up getting them to make a bootleg copy because they were the only human on Earth that actually had this. They had the film. Right. And they made a bootleg copy for me for free simply because I just wanted to give it to my dad. So I can relate on that. But the real, and thank you. Yeah. The real comment though, however, I like your story, like weirdly reminded me of Zoltar in Big. Like you turned the corner, it wasn't on the map, and you're like, I swear to God, MegaCon, you probably would have been like, oh yeah, that vendor was awesome, and they were like, there's no vendor over there. There never was a vendor.
We don't ever put vendors by the restrooms. We would never do that.
If it's not on the map, kid, it was never here. We don't know what you're talking about.
The organizers are like, this curator is partying too much. Am I right? I'm like, no, it's really happened. The whole time it could have been, you know what? I might have interacted with the damn wizard from Shazam. I think I might have interacted with Shazam himself, but I probably failed the test and I probably tried to lowball him. Like, I'll give you 20 for this. The dude was like, all right, no powers for this guy.
Yeah.
He's greedy.
But the thing is Zoltar did bless you with the book, and I think that is true. Really cool. Both stories very cool. So thank you so much for sharing those. All right. Now, everybody, we've gotten through the fun part. Now it's time for the work. It's time for us to put in a little time to help our listeners out there make a little bit of cash themselves if they can.
Speculation.
That's right, the speculation segment. This is where, from a collector's standpoint, Jesus and I certainly like to collect books, but sometimes we gotta help the hobby pay for itself, and that's where speculation comes in, because sometimes you may not be aware of some of the value you have hiding in the closet, or maybe you are aware, but you're looking for more value out there. This is where we're going to give you some pointers, tips, speculation on our part, where you could potentially help yourself, help the hobby pay for itself. I think those all made sense in that order of sentencing. Jesus, once again, you traditionally lead the charge. What are you packing this week?
All right, man. So I went back and I started thinking about, some of the iconic characters, and I don't know. I just got to thinking of stuff we like, right? So we've talked about this before, but I'm gonna go a little different route. I'm talking about none other than Predator and Alien.
Okay.
Or Aliens.
Yep.
Right. So obviously we know that the first Predator was from Dark Horse in like 1989 or something, with that awesome red cover.
Yeah, hell of a cover.
Awesome red cover. But then I got to thinking about, right, like Marvel just took over, and we've talked about this on the side, Jake, outside of the podcast, the Predator versus Wolverine little mini series that they got going on.
Dude. And
it's kind of an insight into what Marvel's thinking with these characters, right? Like, they're going to bring them in. They're bringing them into the fold. They're going to be, they're big franchises. They have huge, massive numbers as far as movies go. We saw what Prey did on Hulu, things like that, right? So I started thinking, well, when was the first time they came into Marvel? It's been recent. It's August of last year. Predator #1 is the first time Marvel printed Predator. So yes, the first issue of Predator is like Dark Horse Presents, and then there's the Predator #1 with that awesome cover. But the first Marvel one is going to be Predator from last year. You're talking about a $5 book right now, right? And I kind of liken this to Masters of the Universe, right? There's two Masters of the Universe out there. People like the DC one, the first time ever where Masters of the Universe was with in a comic book with DC. And then you have some collectors who are more hardcore Marvel collectors, and they collect the Marvel edition, which it was under a Star Comics imprint under Marvel. later on, and that's also a cool cover as well. So you have two different ones. So I'm going for Predator #1. The first time Marvel did it in August of 2022. Plus, they have some really dope variants. And then the same thing with Alien. The first time they printed Alien was in 2021, which is now 2 years ago. And they also have, I think, like Predator 1 has 34 variants. So, I mean, obviously pick and choose which ones you like. Or, yeah. But Alien only has 8. Alien 1 only has 8
and we got against Alien.
Yeah. So, you know, and there's also there's one that's only 600 issues out in the wild, which is a really, really cool one. So yeah, so those two are the ones that I'm looking at. They're like $5 books right now, guys. You guys could probably find them in dollar bins in some places. But long term, I think they're going to be something, especially with how they're bringing these characters into the fold of the whole Marvel universe. Those are my speculation picks for this week.
Genuinely, I think anytime they sort of re-enter the zeitgeist, right? They drop a movie, they drop something, it just pops simply because those two franchises are, I don't know what it is. It seemed like Alien for a little bit there was starting to turn into, it was cheapening itself a little bit, but they've righted that ship, or as it feels like it, and we're starting to get a little bit more. I think we're going to get some pretty pointed and well-directed Alien stuff coming up pretty soon. I think that there's a new one in the works. I'm hoping so anyway. But Prey, if Prey is any indicator for the Predator stuff, I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon, because that was badass.
It's in good hands.
100%. Badr, is that your spec? You got another?
No. I've got a low hanging fruit one. I feel like Transformer back issues, that might be a good little investment. You know, we're seeing a kind of reemergence of same thing with the Alien Predator, like with the new Daniel Warren Johnson series coming out, the Energon series that's been announced, the Rise of the Beast movie that just came out.
Yep,
didn't completely suck at all. If anything, I've heard really good things about it.
People liked it.
So I don't
Void
think
Rivals.
Yeah, Void Rivals. Yeah, everything that Skybound is doing with the imprint, I feel like there's a lot of attention on it, and it might be worth going back and getting those issues while you can, even though maybe it might be too late. Look, Jesus just set the bar way too high for speculation, and I am not great at it, but that is my little hanging fruit one. But I want to share one interesting thing in terms of speculation and just rarity. As I was getting ready for this and looking up, more things about manga, it got me thinking about something, a topic in comic books that I don't know if I want to do an episode on or, just find out more about. But obviously, comic book art is something that you can readily buy. At Heroes Con, there was like booths on booths of original comic art. I understand like all the big cons are starting to get into that. There's more vendors there selling original art. Original art maintains its value. It's also kind of become a big commodity within comic book collecting. And it got me thinking about manga and how I've never seen original art for manga, and that might just have to do because of, a location, obviously it wouldn't be, that isn't a big market here. Manga is an import for us. So it got me thinking of like, well, is there Japanese sites or auction sites that offer original manga pages or sketches? It got me thinking like, do manga artists go to conventions and sell sketches and do prints and all of this? And the answer is not really. So the what I was able to find, and there's not a lot of info to like go off and do like an investigative journalism bit, but like the creator of Ranma 1/2 and Inuyasha, her name is Rumiko Takahashi. Takahashi, yeah. In 2011, there was a sketch that she did, a little ink sketch of a character from one of her other series. She drew on paper. It's sold at auction in 2011 for 3,267,500 yen, which equates out to $40,650 in American. At that time, that's crazy. 40,000 for a sketch. Like original manga art and whatnot is really expensive and hard to get. And a big reason for that is manga artists do not just give. They hold on to their work. They don't sell it like like we see here with American comic books. So it's really hard to come across original art. A lot of times that's either gifted, they gift it to folks, or they just hold on to it. And I think that kind of ties into like the Japanese culture, and I'm sure a lot of that plays into it in that sense of like stoicness and humility and all of that. I think, and in a sense, manga is such a big, and anime as well, such a big piece of culture for them. It's not just a sense of entertainment, but in Japan, like manga and anime is like revered, as a part of their culture. I think there's a sense, I think maybe that plays into why these pages aren't readily available. Because I'm like, man, I wish I could own a piece of like Akira Toriyama, a Dragon Ball, pages. That's not the case. So I say all of that to put a nice bow on this and say, for any of your listeners, if you guys should ever come across the ability to purchase original manga art, pages or sketches or commissions, get on that. Because I don't see that ever going down, because the so scarce, especially for us to get it. I imagine in Japan there might be, auctions and things that I'm not aware of. But for us, yeah, we can't just go on like, mangaauctions.com. That's not the case. It's a lot harder to find.
You act like you don't know how to play this game, but that that right there was that was right on, man. That was perfect.
Yeah,
I thought I was boring, you guys. Thank you.
No, all I'm thinking about right now is One Punch Man manga that I want now.
Oh God,
original art.
Yeah, we're gonna have to look into it a little bit more. Thank you, Badr, for giving us more to collect. Right, that's just right in there. Perfect.
You said the goal was to help. What would you say? To help the hobby pay for itself. I'm sitting over here like, look, dump all of your money into and you'll get rich off it.
The new Dogecoin. Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Dogecoin.
Yeah, manga coin.
Exactly. No, I really like it. I wanted to go. I'm pivoting a little bit with this week's edition of Speculation for myself, and it is once again just kind of the circumstances of what are the conversation, how it sort of led it down a path. We talked earlier. You brought up pre-code horror. You brought up Golden Age. We already touched on Ryan from Automatic Comics. I was actually going to bring that conversation up because something that we talk about in that episode of Floppies, which is our Patreon exclusive, something that we do talk about is heritage auctions. You brought up heritage auctions. I had this note I wrote this like 2 or 3 days ago that this was going to be my speculation. So the fact that you brought it up is just insane. But really what I'm going to recommend out there, everybody do out there from a speculation standpoint, I don't know if this is a help the hobby pay for itself kind of moment, but I do think that it is a make yourself a more rounded collector. If you want to become an individual that can help the hobby pay for itself, I do think that understanding how to buy through heritage auctions is a useful skill. And I say skill because if you look into it a little bit more, it is not just like eBay, right? It's not something where you go, you click the button, you buy it now, and you go. It doesn't work that way. It's a little bit of a learning curve for your first time. Jesús is a recent first time heritage buyer, and it wasn't like he went on there and just willy-nilly threw money around. He did a little bit of research going in. Heritage lets you know what books are going to be coming up for sale in lots. I guess what I'm trying to say is this was a learning curve that I am recently undertaking as well. And so from a speculation standpoint, I'm not saying that you can utilize this knowledge to buy books that you can resell, but I'm saying that if you know what books you're looking for and what price points you want to get into, Heritage has a lot of really, really good opportunities to buy some good collectibles that you could potentially resell if that's what you're into or that's what you want to get into. So the challenge here is what I'm putting before you is go challenge yourself to find a book on Heritage you want to buy. right? It's not going to be hard to find one you want to buy, but of course, find one that's within your price range, all of those things. Give it a shot, because if you've never purchased on heritage auctions or any of those auction sites, it is a fun trip to go down. That is not your average eBay buy.
Jake, I'm gonna hop on this train with you and piggyback off all of this, dude. I will say maybe over the summer I watched my first heritage auction, live auction, and I had seen the headlines. Original Spider-Man. Original comic book art from Secret Wars, $3 million. That Spider-Man page.
The headlines. Yep.
Yeah, I've seen all the headlines, but I've never. I'm like, oh, okay, it's sort of like an eBay. Wrong, super wrong. Big shout out to Eli Schwab of Cosmic Line Productions. He had sent me out of the blue a link like, yo, you got to watch this auction. And I'm like, all right, let's see it. It was one of the most funnest things I've watched. Like, especially working from home, I had it on in the side, and it's like, and next up we have Amazing Spider-Man number 15. Going for 50,000. You know what I'm saying? It's like, wow, this is all about comic books and comic art. And some of the things they've got, I'm really into the collectibles they've got, like the sketches that from years ago, the original comic book page, the art, the paintings, dude. You're right. It really opens up your world from just collecting single issues and slabs and key books to like thinking in a wider space of like, okay, well, my favorite artist also did this series of paintings or also does these sketches, and I've never seen that before. And like right now on the this is all like great synergy and timing. Right now, at the time of this episode releases, Heritage Auction is having their September comic and comic art signature auction, and there is 1,300 and I want to say 49 items, comic books, tons of them, art, collectibles, and dude, yeah. But you're right. It does take a little bit of learning curve because there's things you got to consider, like the damn buyer's premium, 20% on top of what you're paying is definitely a learning curve. But I would recommend just challenging your listeners to at least make an account. Just make an account just so you could follow along with the auctions, because I think you need an account to actually watch the auctions. And it's just a lot of fun to see like some of this stuff go for thousands and millions. And then at the same time, there's things in the lot that are like super reasonable. You're like, wait a minute. Like right now, there's a John Byrne Wolverine convention sketch that's colored from 1979. It's like right now the auction is at $100. Pretty reasonable, and like kind of, old enough to like feel like, oh wow, this is like, a piece of history. And not only that, but when you make a free account, you also get access to all of the high res images they've got. And if you're a fellow podcaster or content creator, or you just want to look at high res images of like cool ass artwork, it behooves you to make a Heritage Auction profile. And they're not paying me to say this, but they probably should.
Yeah, they definitely should be paying all of us for this episode. We'll reach out. So that's my speculation, I guess. I know it's not our traditional spec, but Jesus and Badr both gave 4 tater tot level speculation offerings, so we're just gonna go with that. You guys tied.
Now,
I didn't even win.
You put words in my mouth, and I'm gonna accept it because I would have given you 4 taters.
Oh well, thank
for
you
sure.
very
That
much.
was a 4 tater piece right there.
I felt slightly bad for being mean to Jesus the previous 84 episodes. So
He's just throwing me a bone here with the tie. Is what he's doing.
That's why I'm on the show today. Yeah, Jesus, I'm here to help you get your just dues.
Well, good for you, Badr, and good for Jesus. He finally partially shared a victory on one. That is going to do it for this episode of Spec Tales. I would be remiss if I didn't do a little bit of housekeeping for all of you out there listening. If you really enjoyed Badr's Grail Tale, we are still doing our giveaway for the listener submitted Grail Tales. Anybody out there that has a story, something that they'd love to share with us, we are giving away posters If you give us a Grail Tale, we will give you a poster. I will put one in the mail instantly after we get it. You just got to email it to us. You can send it to spectalespodcast@gmail.com, or you can go ahead and reach out to us on either of our social medias. We are on Twitter. We're not calling it X yet. And we are on Instagram. You can reach out to us. Give us your tale. As Badr very well illustrated in this episode, it's about being personal to you. It doesn't, we have a lot of people who will say like, I don't have any comics of value. That's not, you do. We promise you do. Everybody's got a Grail Tale. They just may not know what it is yet. So with Badr's inspiration here, reach down into your brain and pull out something, and we will send you a poster. The posters are pretty damn cool, if I do say so myself. We have shared on social media. Badr, did you get a chance to see one of these?
Oh, no, show it. I'm sure it's going to look rad because you guys do a great job of branding and your designs and all that. No way. No, I already seen just a little bit. Oh, get that. Dude.
Look how big. Poster, that thing is huge, right? Like, it's massive.
And it looks like it's made from some quality. That don't look like the one ply. That don't look like it was printed on one ply toilet paper.
No, this you can hear it. It's good. No, it's thick. This will go up on your wall, and it's big. It for all of you out there who can't see it and who have not gone to our social media to see what it looks like, it is our mascot JJ, but he is dressed up like Uncle Sam, and this is kind of a recreation of the Uncle Sam. I want you to join the army or whatever for the recruiting, but it says I want your Grail Tale, which is what we want. So we will send you a poster if you send us your listener submitted Grail Tale. That we are still running that, and we'll probably run that until the end of time. But Badr, it has been an absolute pleasure. Would you mind telling everybody where they can find you out on the internets?
For sure, man. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys giving me the chance to come on here and share the platform with you. For anyone that wants to follow me after the party, to go to the after party, you can head over to the Short Box Podcast, a comic book talk show. We are available anywhere you get your podcasts. So whatever you're doing right now to hear this episode and hear me talk, just go ahead and search the Short Box. Go ahead and hit that little subscribe button right along with it. That's the beauty of podcasting. To circle back to the podcast conference, one small but big piece of advice that I got. You ever hear like advice that you're like, I already knew that, but sometimes I need to hear it said in a different way or by someone else or right now, was podcasting really isn't a competition. When you consider that it is a medium that the listeners don't really have to like pick and choose, like they can listen to multiple podcasts. They can listen to more than one comic podcast. So with that being said, we're all friends here. So if you enjoy what Jake and Jesus are doing, check out the Short Box. And yeah, if you want to follow me on Twitter, it is at the Shortbox Jax, JAX, or just go to theshortboxpodcast.com.
Very nice. Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. We really do appreciate you joining us. And we were able to finally get that Grail Tale from you, even though, you had hosted, you and Chris, you were on, but we told you, I remember leaving a note, make sure Badr doesn't give his Grail Tale, because I knew you would have wanted to. But you weren't allowed to. But I'm so glad I told you that, because I wanted to be here for it.
Hell yeah. No, this was a lot of fun, man. You and Jesus are fantastic. Keep doing what y'all doing, man. The podcast in general need you guys, all right? The podcast space needs y'all.
Well, thank you. Yeah, season 3 is really off to a great start. We're enjoying ourselves. All you listeners out there, thanks for sticking with us for this episode. Please come back next week where we are going to have, once again, another really, really cool episode. I'm going to tease it, Jesus. I think we can. Next week, we have the one and only Kieran Gillen joining us.
What?
Yeah, we are very excited about that. We have not actually recorded with Mr. Gillen yet, but we are all scheduled to do so. And with luck, it'll all go out without a bang. Knock on wood or do something, everybody. But that is set up for next week, or the episode that will be dropping on September 20th. So looking forward to that. Thanks, everybody. Catch you next week.